The cold stone floor of the obsidian citadel does not just freeze your bones. It saps the very breath from your lungs. Right now, a heavy iron collar is dug deep into the flesh of my neck, the silver-infused metal burning with a slow, agonizing hiss that smells of scorched skin and stolen freedom. Before me, 7 towering figures clad in blood-red robes look down from their high, curved dais. They are the High Council, the ancient executioners of our kind, and they have spent centuries breaking anyone who dared to stand upright in their presence. Kneel, the center elder commands, his voice a low, rumbling vibration that rattles the heavy stained glass windows of the grand hall. Kneel, Elena Brody, and beg the ancestors to cleanse the taint of your bloodline, so that you may serve the throne. But my knees do not bend. They will never bend to them. Hello my beautiful friends, and a truly heartfelt welcome back to the channel. Before we dive deeper into this dark, breathless tale of defiance and destiny, take a moment to drop a comment below and let me know exactly where in the world you are watching from tonight. I love reading your comments and connecting with our incredible global family. If you're new here or if you've been running with us for a while but haven't made it official yet, please hit that subscribe button right now. Your incredible support keeps these stories alive, and you absolutely do not want to miss the massive twists coming later in this narrative. How are you all doing today? Lean in close because the air in this council chamber is thick with blood, and the fuse is already lit. The silver in the collar bites deeper as I force my spine straighter, my gaze locked onto the central elder's cold, dead eyes. The pain is a blinding white sheet behind my eyelids, a jagged tearing in my throat that warns me one more movement will rip my flesh to ribbons. I can feel the eyes of hundreds of high-ranking wolves gathering in the shadows of the gallery above, their whispers rushing through the cavernous hall like a plague of locusts. They came to see a broken girl from a ruined, disgraced pack. They came to see the daughter of a branded traitor whimpering in the dirt, begging for a scrap of mercy from the tyrants who orchestrated her family's slaughter. Instead, I spit blood onto the pristine white marble steps right at the elder's feet. My father died because he refused to let you butcher innocent children to feed your sacred wells. My voice rings out, raw and scraping against the iron collar, but steady enough to make the whispers in the gallery instantly die. My bloodline isn't tainted. It's just the only one left in this kingdom that remembers what honor looks like. If you want me on the floor, Eldred, you're going to have to cut my legs off. A collective horrified gasp sucks the air from the room. No one speaks to the council this way. No one survives it. To my left, 2 massive guards in heavy iron armor step forward, their claws extending, their eyes flashing a feral, predatory gold. They are ready to tear me apart piece by piece, and honestly, a small, exhausted part of me wonders if letting them do it would be easier than enduring another second of this torture. I am 19 years old, starved, beaten, and hunted to the absolute edge of existence. I have nothing left to lose but my pride, and I am prepared to die holding on to it. But then the massive 30-foot iron doors at the back of the citadel burst open with a sound like a thunderclap. The air in the room instantly shifts. The ambient temperature plummets until our breath plumes into white mist, and a crushing, suffocating aura floods the chamber, so heavy that even the high elders on their dais visibly flinch. A single figure steps through the threshold, cloaked in shadows and a long fur-lined coat that sweeps across the floor like a shroud of death. It is King Arthur Vance, the Lycan King, the most feared, ruthless predator to ever claim the throne. He doesn't look at the council. He doesn't look at the guards. His dark, golden eyes, burning with an ancient, terrifying power, are locked entirely on me. The moment his gaze hits mine, something violent and primal tears through my chest. It is a physical pull, a golden thread snapping taut inside my very soul, burning brighter and hotter than the silver around my neck. The wolf buried deep within my subconscious, silent for years since my pack's demise, suddenly roars to life, scratching at my ribcage to get to him. He is my fated mate. The universe's cruelest joke. Arthur strides down the center aisle, each of his heavy bootsteps echoing like a death knell. The guards who were about to strike me instantly drop to one knee, their heads bowed in absolute terror. The king stops a mere inches from me, his towering frame casting a massive shadow that completely swallows me whole. The scent of ozone, dark forest wood and raw power rolls off him in waves, making my head spin. He looks down at my bloody collar, his jaw clenching so hard that the muscles in his neck strain against his skin. Who authorized the silver? Arthur's voice is not a shout. It is a low, lethal whisper that carries more danger than 1,000 roaring wolves. "She is a threat to the stability of the realm, Your Majesty," Eldred speaks up from the dais, though his voice lacks its previous iron certainty. "She is the daughter of the traitor Brody. She refuses to bow to the council. She must be broken before she can be integrated into the court." Arthur steps even closer to me, ignoring the elder completely. He reaches out a massive, scarred hand, his fingers brushing against the burning iron of my collar. He doesn't care that the silver blisters his own skin. With a single effortless twist of his wrist, he snaps the heavy iron lock. The collar clatters to the floor, leaving a raw, bleeding ring on my skin. He leans down, his lips brushing past my ear, his breath hot against my bruised skin. "If you want to survive the night, little wolf, you need to play your part," he murmurs, his voice a vibration that shakes my core. "But if you choose to fight them, know this. You will be starting a war that will burn this entire kingdom to ash. Choose right now. Are you a queen or are you a corpse?" He pulls back, his golden eyes demanding an answer, staring into the depths of my shattered soul. "The council is watching. The entire kingdom is waiting. If I bow now, I save my life but lose my soul. If I refuse, I drag the most dangerous man alive into a war against his own throne. Can a disgraced exile truly break the chains of a centuries-old empire, or will our mated bond become the very rope the council uses to hang us both?" The silence in the grand hall is a suffocating weight. I take a ragged breath, the cold air stinging the raw, silver-burned flesh of my neck. But for the first time in years, my lungs expand completely without the restriction of iron. I look at Arthur Vance. His towering presence is terrifying, yes, but beneath the terrifying aura of the Lycan King, there is something else. A profound, deep-seated exhaustion hidden in the tight corners of his sharp eyes. He is a king trapped in a gilded cage, surrounded by vipers who wear the robes of holy elders. "I am no one's corpse, Arthur," I whisper back, my voice carrying a fierce resonance that makes his golden eyes widen slightly. "And I will never be a puppet queen." A flicker of something resembling respect flashes across his dark features before his face hardens back into an impenetrable mask of royal indifference. He turns his back on me, facing the high dais of the council, effectively placing his massive body between me and the executioner's guards. "The female stays with me," Arthur announces, his voice cutting through the heavy air like a broadsword. "The mate bond is an ancient law, one that predates even this council. By royal decree, she is under the protection of the crown until her lineage and her crimes can be properly evaluated." Eldred's face contorts into a mask of pure fury, his ancient hands gripping the carved stone armrests of his high chair. "Your Majesty, you risk everything for a broken stray. Her father, Silas Brody, sought to dismantle the very foundations of our society. He hid the forbidden archives. He denied the council our sacred tithes of silver and blood. The girl carries his treason in her veins. She belongs to the dungeons. She belongs to the bloodline of the first wolves, Eldred," Arthur counters, his tone dropping an octave, carrying a lethal warning. "And until I decide otherwise, she stays in the Onyx Wing. This session is adjourned." Before the council can issue another decree, Arthur grabs my upper arm. His grip is firm, but notably careful to avoid the fresh bruises left by the guards. He sweeps me out of the chamber, his heavy coat billowing behind him. We move quickly through a labyrinth of dark, torchlit stone corridors, ascending higher into the heart of the Onyx Citadel. My mind is spinning. Just hours ago I was hiding in the mud of the outer fringes, scavenging for scraps, waiting for the bounty hunters to finally finish me off. Now I am walking beside the apex predator of the continent. My deepest desire has always been simple: survival and justice for the systematic slaughter of my pack. But my deepest fear is standing right next to me. If I let this mate bond take hold, if I let myself trust this dangerous king, I risk losing the only thing I have left: my autonomy. Arthur suddenly pushes open a set of heavy oak doors, steering me into a massive, luxurious suite. The room is vast, dominated by a roaring stone fireplace, dark velvet curtains and a massive bed. Standing near the hearth is a woman with striking silver hair and sharp blue eyes, dressed in elegant warrior's leathers. "Arthur, thank the ancestors," the woman breathes, stepping forward. "The scouts said the council had dragged her into the public chamber." I thought. She stops dead in her tracks, her eyes landing on me. Her gaze drops to the bleeding raw ring around my neck, and her expression shifts from anxiety to profound pity. Oh, the bastards! They used the silver collar on a child. She is no child, Clara, Arthur says, finally releasing my arm and walking toward a heavy crystal decanter on a side table. He pours an amber liquid into a glass, his hands steady, though the skin on his knuckles is still blistered from where he ripped the silver off me. She stared down Eldred and spit blood at his feet. She has more fire than half my vanguard. Clara looks at me, a faint, sad smile touching her lips. I am Clara Sterling, commander of the King's Guard, she says softly, stepping closer but keeping her hands visible. And Arthur's sister. I am so sorry for what they did to you, Elena. I step back, my muscles tense, my wolf still snarling defensively inside my mind. Don't pity me, Commander. Pity is just a soft word for insults. Your brother says I am under his protection, but I know how this court works. I am a prisoner with a nicer room. Arthur downs the amber liquid in one swallow, turning to face me. The firelight dances across the sharp angles of his face, highlighting a long, jagged scar that runs from his temple down to his jawline. A souvenir from some forgotten war. You are a prisoner of circumstance, Elena, Arthur says, his voice low and solemn. My father was a weak king who allowed the council to govern through terror. When I took the throne, I swore to take the power back piece by piece. But the elders hold the keys to the kingdom's logistics, the food supplies and the army's funding. If I openly declare war on them without a unified kingdom behind me, the civilian sectors bleed first. He steps closer, the intense aura of his wolf washing over me again, making my heart race. And now the universe throws you into the middle of my board. A fated mate from the most despised, rebellious bloodline in history. The council knows that if we bond, your pack's ancient claims to the Western territories awaken. My power doubles. Their control evaporates. They will do anything to kill you before that happens. I look from Arthur to Clara. I can see the deep emotional stakes written on both their faces. They aren't just fighting for survival. They are trying to save a dying kingdom from a parasitic ruling class. But there is a hidden depth to Arthur that terrifies me. He looks at me not just with the hunger of a fated mate, but with the calculating eyes of a strategist. So I am just a weapon to you, I say, my voice trembling slightly as the exhaustion of the day finally begins to catch up with me. A political leverage point. Arthur walks up to me, stopping so close I can feel the heat radiating from his chest. He doesn't touch me, but he reaches out, his fingers hovering just an inch away from my burned neck. His eyes soften into something deeply vulnerable, a raw, aching loneliness that mirrors my own. If I wanted a weapon, Elena, I could buy 1,000 swords, he whispers, his voice thick with an emotion that shakes me to my core. I have spent 10 years ruling this kingdom entirely alone, watching my back every single second. The moment I smelled your scent in that chamber, the darkness in my mind went quiet. I don't want a weapon. I want my mate. But I need you alive to have either. His words hit me like a physical blow, melting a tiny piece of the ice around my heart. Before I can answer, a sudden urgent knocking rattles the heavy sweet doors. Clara instantly draws her blade, her eyes flashing gold. The door bursts open and a young page stands there, panting, his face entirely drained of color. Your Majesty. Commander. The page gasps, clutching his chest. You need to come to the lower courtyard immediately. The council has just invoked the ancient trial of purging. They are setting fire to the Brody family's old ancestral records in the public square, and they have dragged out someone they claim is a surviving relative of Elena's. My heart stops. A relative? Everyone in my pack was slaughtered. Everyone except me. Or so I thought. The blood drains from my face so fast the room tilts. A relative. The image of my childhood village burning to the ground flashes behind my eyes. The screams of my people, the smell of ash and copper, the absolute certainty that I was the last of the Brody name. They're lying, I whisper, though my feet are already moving toward the door. It's a trap. Elena, wait. Arthur's voice thunders, but I don't stop. I bolt down the corridor, the adrenaline drowning out the agony of the silver burns on my neck. Clara and Arthur's heavy boots echo close behind me as we sprint through the winding stone passages of the citadel, descending toward the lower courtyards. We burst through the grand archway into the crisp night air, and the sight before me makes my throat lock in absolute horror. A massive bonfire roars in the center of the cobblestone courtyard, fed by ancient leather-bound ledgers, historical scrolls, and family trees, the entire documented history of my slaughtered pack, being reduced to ash. Standing before the flames are 3 council elders, their red robes glowing like fresh blood in the firelight. And bound to a heavy wooden post right beside the fire is a young boy, no older than 10, his face smeared with soot and tears. My breath hitches. The golden brown curls, the slight tilt of the jaw. It's Leo. My little cousin. The boy I thought had been crushed under the debris of our burning longhouse. He is alive and he is terrified. Ah, the stray returns, Eldred sneers, stepping forward from the flames. Just in time to witness the final purging of her treasonous bloodline. By decree of the High Council, this child has been found harboring the same rebellious sickness as his father. He is condemned to the silver mines of the northern waste. He is a child. I scream, taking a furious step forward, but a massive ironclad arm bars my chest. Arthur stands beside me, his aura erupting with such violent intensity that the stone beneath our feet seems to vibrate. His golden eyes are no longer human. They are completely feral, the pupils narrowed to razor-thin slits. Eldred, you stretch the limits of your authority, Arthur growls, his upper lip pulling back to reveal lethal, elongated fangs. The boy is a minor of a noble house. You cannot sentence him without a royal signature. The council rules when the crown fails to protect the purity of the realm, your majesty, Eldred counters, a sickening, triumphant smile stretching across his wrinkled face. Unless, of course, the boy's legal guardian steps forward to claim him. But to do that, the guardian must be a recognized citizen of the court. And a recognized citizen must bow. The trap snaps shut. The cruelty of it is breathtaking. They are using a terrified 10-year-old child to break my pride, to force me to my knees in front of the entire kingdom. If I refuse to bow, Leo is dragged away to a slow, agonizing death in the silver mines. If I do bow, the council proves to the entire supernatural world that they are more powerful than the Lycan King and his fated mate. Elena, don't look at them. Look at me, Arthur commands softly, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. He shifts his body, forcing me to lock eyes with him. The raw attraction and heavy pull of the mate bond flare between us, hot and demanding. If you kneel to them now, they win forever. I can order my guards to seize the boy, but it will trigger an immediate civil war in the streets tonight. Thousands will die. I look past Arthur's shoulder at Leo. The little boy catches my eye through the smoke, his small body trembling against the wooden post. Elena, he mouths, his eyes wide with terror. My heart shatters into a million jagged pieces. The internal conflict tears at my soul. My pride, my hatred for these tyrants, my father's legacy, versus the life of an innocent boy who carries my blood. I won't let him burn, Arthur, I say, a cold, dead certainty settling into my bones. I push past Arthur's arm. The courtyard goes completely silent as I step toward the roaring bonfire. Eldred's eyes gleam with sadistic anticipation. The hundreds of wolves watching from the battlements hold their breath. I walk right up to the base of the council's dais, the heat of the fire scorching my face. I look up at the 7 elders. Slowly, deliberately, I sink to one knee. A murmur of disappointment and triumph ripples through the crowd. I press my palm against the cold cobblestones, my head bowed, my pride screaming in agony. I claim custody of the boy, I say, my voice dripping with forced submission. I acknowledge the council's presence. An acknowledgement is not a submission, girl, Eldred barks, stepping closer, holding a heavy silver staff. Place your forehead against the stone. Beg the council for the boy's life. Show this kingdom your true place. The humiliation is toxic, a suffocating poison in my throat. I lower my head further, my knuckles turning white against the ground. But before my forehead can touch the stone, a heavy, warm hand grips my shoulder and violently yanks me back to my feet. I gasp, looking up. It's Arthur. He has stepped down from his royal platform, standing right beside me in the dirt. But he isn't looking at me. He is glaring at the council, and his hand moves from my shoulder to entwine his fingers tightly with mine. The moment our palms touch, a jolt of pure, blinding golden energy erupts from our bonded grip, sending a physical shockwave across the courtyard that extinguishes half the bonfires in an instant. She has bowed as a citizen. Arthur's voice thunders, a terrifying roar that echoes across the mountains. but she stands as my queen. And the king's mate kneels to no one. Before the council can react, Arthur pulls me flush against his chest, his free hand gripping the back of my neck, and crashes his lips onto mine. The kiss is an absolute explosion. It is not gentle. It is a desperate, roaring collision of hunger, fury, and centuries of waiting. The mate bond completely erupts, flooding my veins with a wild, intoxicating power. The silver burns on my neck instantly stop aching, replaced by a soothing, golden heat. I wrap my arms around his neck, pulling him closer, drinking in his strength as the entire courtyard erupts into utter chaos. The council elders scream in outrage, their guards drawing weapons, but Arthur breaks the kiss just an inch, his golden eyes blazing into mine. "The fuse is lit, Elena," he whispers against my lips, his breath ragged. "We just declared war." The echo of Arthur's public declaration still rings in my ears hours later, but the romantic haze of that explosive kiss is quickly replaced by the cold, hard reality of our survival. Arthur's guards successfully secured Leo under the cover of the post-kiss chaos, moving him to a heavily fortified room deep within the Onyx Wing. But we haven't bought our freedom. We have simply accelerated the timeline of our execution. I pace the length of the Grand Library, my eyes scanning the endless rows of ancient texts while Clara Sterling stands by the heavy oak doors, her arms crossed and her brow furrowed in deep thought. "The council is already moving their chess pieces," Clara says, her sharp blue eyes tracking my anxious movements. "Eldred has blocked all supply carriages from entering the royal sectors. He's telling the city packs that Arthur has brought a cursed traitor into the heart of the kingdom, claiming your presence will bring famine. The lower districts are panicking. They're panicking because they don't know the truth," I reply, stopping at a massive oak table covered in maps of the supernatural territories. "My father didn't hide the archives because he was a traitor, Clara. He hid them because they contain proof that the council has been artificially creating silver shortages to keep the outlying packs weak and dependent on the Citadel's protection." The heavy double doors swing open and Arthur walks in. He has stripped off his formal royal coat, wearing only a dark, fitted tunic that stretches across his broad shoulders. He looks exhausted, the dark circles under his eyes deeper than before, but the moment his gaze lands on me, the tension in his jaw visibly melts. The invisible tether of the mate bond tugs hard at my chest, pulling me toward him. "Leo is asleep," Arthur says softly, stepping up to the table and placing his hands on the carved wood. My personal physicians looked at him. "He's undernourished, but he's safe. Clara, leave us for a moment." Clara nods knowingly and slips out of the room, closing the heavy doors behind her with a soft click. The silence that settles between us is thick, charged with the lingering memory of the courtyard. I look down at his hands, noticing the faint silver-burned scars on his knuckles from when he ripped my collar off. Without thinking, I reach out, my fingers gently brushing against his scarred skin. A sharp, breathless gasp escapes my lips as a wave of intense, tingling warmth floods my nervous system. Arthur doesn't pull away. Instead, he turns his palm over, sliding his large, calloused fingers between mine, gripping my hand with a desperate, hidden vulnerability. "You shouldn't have done that out there," I whisper, looking up into his burning golden eyes. "You protected my pride, but you put a target on your own chest. They will call for your abdication." "Let them call," Arthur growls softly, stepping closer until the heat of his chest brushes against my shoulder. "I have spent a decade playing their political games, watching innocent wolves suffer while I signed treaties that broke my soul piece by piece. When I saw you on your knee, Elena, when I felt your spirit refusing to break even under the weight of their silver, I realized something." He leans down, his breath sweeping across my cheek. "I don't want a kingdom if I have to rule it on my knees. I would rather burn the Citadel to the ground with them inside it than watch them break you." The raw honesty in his voice makes my heart pound against my ribs. It's a terrifying kind of devotion, born from a lifetime of isolation. For the first time, I don't see the feared Lycan King. I see a man who has been starving for an ally, for someone to truly share his heavy burden. I lean into his space, my free hand coming up to touch the sharp angle of his jaw, my thumb tracing the jagged scar on his cheek. "We fight them together then," I say softly, my voice filled with a fierce, growing affection. "But we have to be smart. We need my father's hidden archives. They are buried somewhere in the whispering catacombs beneath the old Brody estate." Arthur's eyes darken slightly, a flash of frustration crossing his features. The catacombs are dangerous, Elena. The council sealed them off after the purge. They are filled with ancient, feral traps that react to bloodline magic. Which is exactly why only a Brody can open them, I counter, pulling my hand back slightly to emphasize my point. We leave tonight under the cover of the midnight eclipse. If we can get the proof of the council's corruption, we can present it to the Pack Alphas at the upcoming Equinox Summit. We can strip the elders of their power without firing a single shot in the streets. Before Arthur can answer, the library doors fly open again. Clara rushes back into the room, her face tight with alarm, holding a small, crumpled piece of parchment. Arthur, we have a problem, Clara says, her voice strained. One of our double agents inside the council's inner sanctum just slipped this through the wall vents. Eldred didn't just block the supplies. He has summoned the Midnight Vanguard, the council's elite assassin squad. They aren't waiting for the Equinox Summit. They have been given a direct order to infiltrate the Onyx Wing tonight and terminate Elena, and anyone standing beside her. The fuse has just burned down to the powder keg. The council isn't playing politics anymore. They are moving for a total coup. The stakes are rising so fast. The council's elite assassins are on the move, and our Lycan King and his mate are running out of time. The darkness of the midnight eclipse doesn't just swallow the sky. It smothers the entire kingdom in an eerie, breathless silence. We push through the subterranean tunnels leading away from the Onyx Wing, our footsteps muffled by the damp moss coating the cracked stone. Arthur leads the way, his massive broadsword drawn, his golden eyes cutting through the pitch black like twin lanterns. Clara guards our rear, her twin daggers unsheathed, every muscle in her warrior's frame coiled tight like a spring. I press my hand against the rough stone wall, guiding us by the ancestral memory huming faintly in my veins. We are deep beneath the ruins of my family's old estate, entering the whispering catacombs. We're close, I whisper, my breath pluming in the freezing subterranean air. The vault is just past the flooded crypts. I can feel the wards reacting to my blood. Stay behind me, Elena, Arthur murmurs, his voice a low, protective rumble that vibrates straight to my core. He stops at a massive circular iron door embedded into the living rock. The door is carved with the intricate, twisting sigils of the Brody bloodline, wolves howling at a crescent moon. The Vanguard is hunting us, and this place feels like a tomb. It is a tomb, Arthur, I say softly, stepping past him to face the door. I take a deep breath and press my palm against the center of the iron sigil. For a second nothing happens. Then a sharp, white-hot sting slices across my palm. The door demands a blood tithe. The ancient iron grooves suddenly glow with a brilliant, pulsing silver-blue light as my blood flows into the tracks. With a heavy, grinding groan of centuries-old gears, the massive vault door unlatches and slowly swings inward, revealing a hidden, dust-covered sanctuary. Inside, the room is filled with rows of pristine, untouched parchment, glowing crystal orbs containing memory projections, and the true, unedited histories of the supernatural realm. We found it, Clara breathes, her eyes wide as she steps inside, guarding the threshold. The evidence to break the council's hold forever. I hurry over to the central stone pedestal, where a massive leather-bound journal emblazoned with my father's personal crest rests. My hands tremble as I open it, my eyes tearing up at the sight of his elegant, familiar handwriting. I flip through the pages, scanning the dates, the numbers, the horrifying logs of the council's manufactured silver shortages and systematic pack executions. But as my eyes scan further down the final pages, my heart suddenly drops into a bottomless, freezing abyss. The letters blur. The air leaves my lungs in a sharp, horrified gasp. No, I whisper, stumbling backward, the journal slipping from my fingers and hitting the stone floor with a heavy thud. No, this can't be true. It's a lie. Arthur is at my side in an instant, his large hands catching my shoulders, his eyes wild with concern. Elena? What is it? What did he write? I look up at him, my vision swimming with hot, bitter tears. The intense pull of the mate bond between us suddenly feels like a cruel, agonizing joke. The internal conflict tears through my chest, ripping away the fragile trust one had just begun to build. The purge of my pack, I choke out, my voice breaking as I stare into his golden eyes. The night my mother, my father, and hundreds of my people were slaughtered, it wasn't just the council, Arthur. The order. The treaty that authorized the strike. It required a royal signature to bypass our regional defenses. Arthur freezes, his jaw clenching, his face turning entirely pale under the dim glow of the vault's crystals. My father signed it, Arthur says, his voice flat, dead, and heavy with a terrible realization. No, Arthur, your father didn't sign it, I scream, pushing against his chest, breaking away from his grip as the raw agony of betrayal explodes in my veins. Your father was already bedridden and incapacitated by then. The journal contains a copy of the final military directive. The signature at the bottom, the hand that signed the decree that wiped out my entire life, was yours, Arthur. You signed the execution order for my family. The revelation hits the room like a physical explosion. Clara gasps, her daggers lowering slightly in sheer disbelief, her eyes darting between us. Arthur stands entirely still, looking down at the fallen journal. He doesn't deny it. He doesn't make an excuse. The profound, haunting guilt that I had seen hidden in the corners of his eyes since the moment we met finally makes sense. He didn't just look at me with the hunger of a mate. He looked at me with the crushing weight of a man who knew he had partaken in the destruction of everything I loved. Elena. Arthur steps forward, his hands extended, his voice a broken, raw plea that tears at the air. Listen to me. 10 years ago when I took the Regency, I was a kid. The council handed me a stack of military deployments, telling me they were sending peacekeepers to protect your borders from rogue hunters. They forged the context. They lied to me. I didn't know what I was signing until the smoke was already rising from your valleys. I have spent every single day since then trying to find a way to make them pay for what they made me do. You slaughtered them. I shriek, the emotional contrast of my love and my hatred clashing so violently inside me that my wolf rages against my ribs, wanting to tear him apart. You signed the paper that killed my mother. The mate bond. Everything. It was just a sick twist of fate to punish me. Before Arthur can answer, a cold, mocking applause echoes from the dark entrance of the catacombs. We spin around. Standing at the threshold, flanked by a dozen shadow-cloaked assassins of the Midnight Vanguard, is Eldred. The old elder smiles maliciously, his red robes sweeping over the blood-stained stone. Oh, what a deliciously tragic reunion, Eldred sneers, his eyes gleaming with sadistic triumph. You see, little stray, we always knew the king signed it. In fact, we counted on it. It's so much easier to control a young king when he is drowning in the blood of his own mate's family. And now, thanks to your foolish little quest for the truth, you've brought the evidence right to us, and ensured that neither of you will ever leave this tomb alive. The vanguard moves in, their silver blades gleaming in the darkness, cutting off our only exit. I am absolutely speechless. Arthur signed the order. The betrayal is so deep, and now they are completely trapped by the council's deadliest assassins. The shadow-cloaked assassins of the Midnight Vanguard move with the sickening fluid synchronization of a striking viper. The air in the hidden vault instantly chokes with the thick, suffocating stench of liquid silver and raw, unadulterated malice. Kill the stray, Eldred commands from the threshold, his voice a cold hiss that cuts through the darkness. And bring me the king's head. We will tell the kingdom they died at each other's throats. Clara, form a defensive line. Protect the archives. Arthur roars, his voice shattering the tomb-like silence. He steps directly into the path of 3 oncoming assassins, his massive broadsword swinging in a lethal flashing arc that forces them back. But the emotional devastation of the revelation still hangs between us like a wall of solid ice. I stand frozen, my hands trembling, my mind trapped in a terrifying loop of the past and the present. The man who just held me, the man whose touch made my soul sing, is the hand that signed my family's death warrant. Elena, look out. Clara screams. A vanguard assassin materialized from the shadows directly to my left, a jagged silver dagger slicing down toward my throat. Instinct kicks in, the raw, animalistic survival training beaten into me by years on the run. I duck beneath the blade, the silver heat scorching the hairs on my arm, and drive my elbow hard into the assassin's ribs. He grunts, but before I can recover, a second assassin lunges from the dark, kicking my legs out from under me. I hit the stone floor hard, the air knocked violently from my lungs. The silver dagger rises, poised to plunge straight into my chest. I close my eyes, bracing for the burning death. But the blow never comes. With a deafening feral roar that sounds more like a demonic entity than a wolf, Arthur throws himself over my body. The silver blade drives deep into the muscle of his shoulder instead of my heart. A sickening hiss of burning flesh echoes through the vault as the silver poisons his royal blood. Arthur doesn't even flinch. He grabs the assassin by the throat with his bare hand and slams him into the stone floor with enough force to crack the marble. He stands over me, panting, blood pouring from his shoulder, blood that is turning a dark, toxic black from the silver. The mate bond between us screams in pure agony, a physical tugging at my heart that begs me to help him, to heal him. But the image of my father's journal, of Arthur's signature on that execution order, flashes in my mind, paralyzing me with a toxic mixture of love and absolute despair. "Get away from me," I choke out, my voice cracking as I crawl backward away from his bleeding form. "Don't touch me." Arthur looks down at me, and the expression on his face breaks what little is left of my heart. It isn't anger. It is a profound, hollow despair. The look of a man who knows he deserves my hatred, yet will die protecting me anyway. "I know I can't fix the past, Elena," he whispers, his golden eyes dimming as the silver poison spreads through his veins. "But I will not let them take your future. Arthur, there are too many of them." Clara calls out, her voice strained as she fights off 3 assassins near the vault door. "They're flanking the secondary exit. We're being pushed into the lower crypts." Eldred raises his heavy silver staff, slamming it against the stone floor. A concussive wave of dark, corrupted magic ripples through the chamber, shattering the stone pillars supporting the ceiling. The vault begins to collapse. Massive boulders of solid rock rain down, crashing into the rows of ancient history, smashing my father's archives to dust. "No!" I scream, reaching for the journal, but a massive cave-in separates me from the pedestal. "We have to move now," Clara yells, grabbing my arm and yanking me backward into a narrow, downward-sloping escape tunnel. Arthur stands at the mouth of the collapsing vault, holding off the remaining assassins alone. He uses his massive body to block the falling debris, ensuring that Clara and I can slip into the tunnel safely. His eyes lock onto mine one last time through the falling dust and smoke. A final, silent apology from a tragic king. With a deafening crash, the roof of the vault completely caves in. A solid wall of tons of stone slams down, completely sealing the chamber. The room goes pitch black. The sounds of fighting instantly vanish, replaced by the terrifying, echoing silence of the deep earth. Arthur is on the other side. Trapped in a collapsing tomb, poisoned by silver, surrounded by the council's deadliest killers. I drop to my knees in the dirt of the narrow tunnel, the darkness swallowing me whole. I am completely separated from my mate, trapped in the deep earth, stripped of my family's archives, and drowning in a hopeless sea of betrayal and grief. The situation is entirely hopeless. The council has won, my family is unavenged, and the man I love is the monster who started it all. Oh, the absolute heartbreak. Arthur is trapped, poisoned, and Elena is utterly broken by the truth. Is there any way out of this dark abyss? The darkness in the narrow escape tunnel is absolute. A suffocating velvet that smells of damp earth and the heavy, metallic tang of despair. I sit in the dirt, my knees pulled tightly to my chest, my hands shaking so violently I can barely breathe. On the other side of that collapsed wall of solid stone, Arthur is dying. The silver poison is eating through his veins and the vanguard's blades are closing in. Good, a bitter, bleeding part of my soul screams. He signed the decree. He let them burn your life to the ground. Elena, we have to keep moving. Clara's voice breaks through the blackness, though it cracks with a raw, agonizing grief. I hear her boots scraping against the loose gravel as she tries to find her bearings. The tunnel leads back to the surface fringes. If we stay here, the air will run out or Eldred's tracking wolves will find us. Why? I whisper, my voice a hollow, raspy scratch against the silence. Why should I move? Everything was a lie, Clara. Your brother, the king I actually started to believe in, he murdered my people. A sudden, sharp movement cuts through the dark. Clara grabs my shoulders, her grip tight, her breath hot against my face. Listen to me, Elena. Look at my face, even if you can't see it, listen to my voice. Arthur was 19 when he was forced onto that throne. Our father was assassinated, the kingdom was on the brink of total collapse, and the council held a knife to both of our throats every single night. They brought him a forged peace treaty. They told him if he didn't sign the troop deployment, your pack would be overrun by rogue hunters. She pulls me closer, her voice trembling with tears. The moment he found out what they actually used those troops for, that they butchered your family while using his royal seal to lock the borders, he locked himself in his chambers and ripped his own skin open in penance. He has spent 10 years torturing himself, refusing to take a mate, refusing to smile, fighting a silent, agonizing war to strip the council of their power so he could bring justice to the survivors. To you. Her words hit me like a physical blow, fracturing the icy armor around my heart. The internal conflict inside my chest violently shifts. I look back toward the solid wall of collapsed stone. The mate bond doesn't just pull anymore. It begins to burn, a fierce golden flame that erupts from the very center of my soul. I feel his heartbeat through the spiritual thread. It is slowing down. A faint, faltering rhythm that warns me his time is running out. If he dies here, the council wins forever. Eldred will take Leo, enslave the remaining Outer Packs, and erase the Brody name from history. Arthur didn't murder my family. He was a pawn used by the same monsters who are trying to destroy us right now. And I am about to let them finish the job because of my own pride. No, I say, a sudden electric heat flooding my veins. I push Clara's hands off my shoulders and stand up straight in the darkness. I am a Brody. We do not die in the dark, and we do not leave our people behind. Elena. Clara gasps as a brilliant, blinding golden light suddenly erupts from my chest. The bloodline magic inside me, dormant since the night my pack burned, completely awakens, triggered by the raw intensity of the mate bond and my absolute refusal to back down. The golden light cascades down my arms, illuminating the ancient, intricate runes etched into the cavern walls. My father's archives weren't just books on a shelf. The true history, the bloodline inheritance, was buried inside me. I turn back to the collapsed stone wall. I place both my hands against the massive boulders. Arthur! I scream into the stone, letting the mate bond flare to its absolute limits. The spiritual thread snaps taut. I don't just feel his pain. I send my own raw, unyielding vitality flooding through the bond, straight into his dying heart. Live, Arthur, I command through our shared soul. Live, because I am coming for you and we have a war to win. With a deafening roar of power, the golden light exploding from my palms fractures the solid rock. The massive boulders begin to lift, hovering in the air as my ancestral magic tears the cave-in apart, clearing the path back into the vault. I look at Clara, my eyes now glowing with a blinding ancient silver-gold fire. Get your daggers ready, Commander. We're going back for the king. Oh my absolute goodness, Elena's true power has finally awakened. The mate bond is alive, the magic is roaring, and she is going back into the fire. Can they save Arthur before the silver consumes him completely? The air in the shattered vault is a toxic cloud of pulverized stone, choking gray ash, and the blinding violent flash of silver-edged steel. The moment the stone wall fractures under the raw weight of my awakened bloodline magic, Clara and I explode back into the cavern like an unholy tempest. For the crown. Clara roars, her voice a terrifying battle cry as she leaps over the smoking debris, her twin daggers cutting through the shadows. Before the remaining vanguard assassins can even process the fact that the cave-in has been violently dismantled, Clara is upon them. Her blades blur in the dim, chaotic light, systematically disarming and dropping two killers before they can raise their weapons. But my eyes are locked entirely on the center of the ruined chamber. Arthur is on his knees, his massive broadsword driven deep into the cracked marble floor just to keep himself upright. His dark tunic is shredded, his skin paper white, and the veins creeping up his neck are a terrifying, toxic black. Eldred stands just a few feet away, his ancient face twisted into a grotesque sneer of absolute triumph as he lifts his heavy silver staff, preparing to drive the pointed tip straight through the Lycan King's throat. Die in the dirt where you belong, boy. Eldred spits, his voice dripping with venom. Get away from my mate. I scream. The sound that tears from my throat is not human. It is the majestic, primordial roar of a first wolf. The silver-gold fire radiating from my body expands outward in a massive concussive shockwave, ripping across the floor and shattering the remaining pillars. Eldred gasps, his eyes widening in pure, unadulterated terror as the sheer force of my magic slams into his chest, lifting his ancient body off the ground and throwing him violently across the room. He crashes against the far stone wall, his silver staff clattering uselessly across the floor. I sprint across the trembling marble, throwing myself down into the dirt right beside Arthur. I wrap my arms around his massive, shivering frame, pulling his head against my chest. The touch is an absolute agony of contrasting sensations. His skin is freezing, but the mate bond between us is white-hot, a roaring furnace that demands to be fed. Elena. Arthur gasps, his cracked lips barely moving, his golden eyes unfocused and dimming by the second. You came back. Why did you come back? I killed your... Shut up, Arthur. Just shut up and look at me, I sob, my tears falling onto his blood-stained cheek. I grab his large, blistered hand, forcing our fingers to entwine once again. You didn't do this. They did. And I am not letting them take you from me. We are breaking their chains tonight. I close my eyes and reach deep into the absolute core of my awakened heritage. I don't just send a trickle of power through the bond this time. I open the floodgates completely. I offer him my entire soul, my vitality, the raw, uncorrupted magic of the Brody bloodline. A blinding, iridescent pillar of silver-gold light erupts from our joined hands, wrapping around both of our bodies like a protective cocoon. The dark, toxic blackness in Arthur's veins instantly begins to recede, chased away by the purifying fire of our fully accepted fated bond. His ragged breathing evens out. His chest expands as the silver poison is violently purged from his system, burning away into harmless gray vapor. With a gasping roar, Arthur's eyes snap wide open. They aren't just gold anymore. They are a brilliant, blinding solar fire that mirrors my own. The bond is fully forged. The true Lycan King has risen. He stands up in a single fluid motion, lifting me effortlessly beside him. The raw, suffocating aura of power that rolls off the two of us is so immense that the remaining vanguard assassins drop their daggers and flee into the dark tunnels, completely abandoning their master. Eldred stumbles to his feet near the wall, coughing up blood, his red robes tattered and ruined. He looks at us, his face a mask of frantic, desperate panic as he realizes he is staring at the ultimate nightmare of the High Council, a fully bonded, unified king and queen. This is treason. Eldred shrieked, his voice cracking as he backed away toward the edge of the flooded crypts. The council is the law. The kingdom will tear itself apart without us. You cannot destroy centuries of tradition for a stray. The council isn't the law, Eldred, I say, stepping forward beside Arthur, our hands still locked tightly together. You are just an old man hiding behind stolen silver and dead children's memories. My father's archives are gone, but I carry his truth in my blood. And tomorrow the entire kingdom will hear it. Arthur steps forward, his massive broadsword resting effortlessly on his shoulder, his voice a low, lethal thunder that seals the elder's fate. Your reign of terror ends tonight, Eldred. For my father, for Elena's pack, and for every wolf you ever forced to their knees. Before Eldred can utter another word, Clara steps out from the shadows behind him, her daggers pressed firmly against his wrinkled throat. Secure him, Arthur commands calmly. He will stand trial in front of the entire assembly of alphas at the Equinox Summit. Let the kingdom see their gods bleed. The central conflict is solved. The tyrants have fallen. Justice, long buried in the ash of my past, has finally broken through the earth. Oh my absolute goodness, what an epic, breathtaking climax. Elena and Arthur are finally fully bonded, and Eldred is going to face absolute justice. The morning sun breaking over the peaks of the Obsidian Mountains does not just bring a new day. It bathes the entire kingdom in a warm, golden clarity that hasn't been felt here for generations. 3 weeks have passed since the fateful night in the Whispering Catacombs. The Equinox Summit was not the bloodbath many feared, but a historic reckoning. Standing before the assembled alphas of every regional pack, with Eldred and his corrupt elders stripped of their robes and bound in ordinary iron chains, I spoke the truth. I didn't need the physical archives. The magic humming in my bloodline bore witness to the decades of the Council's manufactured silver shortages, their assassinations and their forced compliance. The Alphas, finally seeing the true face of their oppressors, voted unanimously to dissolve the Council forever. Now I stand on the grand stone balcony of the Onyx Wing, looking out over the sprawling city below. The lower districts are no longer dark and tense. The trade blockades have been lifted, and the streets are alive with music, laughter, and the bustling energy of a kingdom finally breathing free. A soft, familiar pair of footsteps echoes behind me. I smile even before I feel a pair of strong, warm arms wrap gently around my waist, pulling my back flush against a broad, solid chest. "You're up early," Arthur whispers into my hair, his voice a low, contented rumble that sends a pleasant shiver down my spine. I lean back into his embrace, tilting my head up to look into his golden eyes. They are bright, clear, and completely free of the haunting guilt that used to consume them. The mate bond between us is no longer a chaotic fire. It has settled into a deep, comforting hearth, a constant hum of love, strength, and mutual respect that links our souls permanently. "I wanted to watch the sunrise," I say softly, placing my hands over his large ones where they rest on my stomach. It's the first time in my life that the morning doesn't feel like a countdown to survival. It just feels peaceful. Arthur rests his chin on my shoulder, his gaze sweeping over the free kingdom we built together from the ashes of our pasts. "You gave us that peace, Elena. You gave me that peace. I spent 10 years ruling a kingdom that hated me, carrying a crown that felt like an executioner's block. You taught me how to fight for something real. You taught me how to stand up." "We stood up together, Arthur," I remind him, turning around in his arms so I can face him fully. I reach up, my fingers gently tracing the sharp angle of his jawline. "And we are going to rule together. Not through fear and never from our knees." A joyous, high-pitched shout cuts through the morning air, drawing our attention down to the lush palace courtyards below. I look over the stone railing and smile warmly. Leo is down there, his cheeks flush with health and happiness, chasing a wooden ball with 3 other young pups from the guard barracks. He stops, looking up at the balcony, and waves fiercely at us with a massive, gap-toothed grin. I wave back, a profound sense of fulfillment swelling in my chest. My pack's history was stolen and my family was taken, but their legacy lives on in Leo. It lives on in the justice we secured for their names. The Brody bloodline is no longer a disgraced memory. It is the foundation of a new empire. Arthur pulls me back to him, his eyes darkening with a familiar, deep affection that makes my heart flutter. He leans down, his lips brushing softly against the faint silver-white scar on my neck where the iron collar used to be, a mark that is no longer a symbol of pain, but a badge of absolute victory. "The alphas are waiting in the grand hall, my queen," Arthur murmurs against my skin, a soft smile touching his lips. "They want to discuss the redistribution of the silver reserves to the outer packs. They're eager to see what their new rulers have planned." I wrap my arms around his neck, pulling him down into a deep, lingering kiss that tastes of sweet victory, profound joy, and a future built on absolute trust. When we finally break away, breathless and smiling, I lock my fingers tightly with his. "Let's not keep them waiting," I say, my voice ringing with the fierce, unyielding confidence of a true alpha. "We have a whole new world to build." What an absolutely breathtaking, beautiful journey. Elena and Arthur went through absolute hell, but they stood tall, broke the chains of tyranny, and earned their deeply satisfying happy ending. I am so incredibly proud of Elena's journey from a hunted exile to a magnificent, defiant queen. My wonderful friends, thank you so much for embarking on this highly emotional, addictive adventure with me tonight. If this story touched your heart, please leave a comment below sharing your absolute favorite part of Elena and Arthur's fated romance. And if you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button right now and join our incredible storytelling family. Your support means the absolute world to me, and it ensures you will always be front and center for the next epic tale. Until next time, stay strong, keep your head high, and remember, never bow to anyone. See you in the next video.